come on, it's just a bunch of hocus pocus.
Spooky season in the early 2000s is something many of us cherish deeply. Nothing like popping in some ready-to-bake Pillsbury cookies, pouring yourself a nice cold glass of milk because the Got Milk campaign was still at its peak, sitting down and watching a Disney Channel original movie. A DCOM, if you will. However, one changed my and many other children's life forever, and it was banned from the Disney Channel. I don't know if you could tell by looking at me, but I was a Disney Channel enjoyer, especially during the month of October. Just cozying up and watching classics like Under Wraps, Mom's Got a Date with a Vampire, and one of the first 3 Halloween Towns, because I'm an OG Marnie fan first, and the iconic Sarah Paxton to me is Aquamarine. Strictly. I usually expected to watch the classics in October, but sometimes the stars align, and you get to watch a DCOM you've never seen before. And that happened to me. On this particular day, the nightly commercials were for a movie called Don't Look Under the Bed.
And whatever you do, don't look under the bed.
And if I'm being honest with you girls, I did find the promo itself very creepy. But something about me as a child, I was going to push my limits. So was the promo unsettling? Yes. Did I already pop in the cookies and have my cold glass of milk prepared? Yeah. I feel like as a kid, I especially enjoyed scary things like horror movies or haunted houses because I was a rule follower, but I still loved a thrill. So I think that scary things kind of fulfilled that. Now, I didn't have anything to be scared of as a child, so I did that with things like Slender Man, and that would give me the thrill. Now I'm afraid of things like taxes and medical bills and being alone in a parking garage at 7 p.m. So no need to watch scary movies anymore to get the thrill that I was looking for as a kid. So I committed to watching the movie, and I deeply regret it. As much as this movie affected me, I feel like my brain developed and I just eventually forgot about it until I was laying alone in my room recently after watching the film Talk to Me, and I'm thinking, man, I haven't been this scared being alone in my room at night since that movie I watched on Disney Channel in 2003. And if I'm being honest, yeah, it is embarrassing to admit that a Disney Channel movie affected the way I slept for over a decade. I'm the first one to say it. Wikipedia, the best resource on planet Earth, has a section for Don't Look Under the Bed on film reception. And I explored that a little bit, and it said something quite interesting. Due to complaints from parents who found the film to be too scary for young children, Disney Channel ceased annual rebroadcasts during the month of October after 2006. It is now available for streaming on Disney+. Oh, you were making fun of me, weren't you? You were making fun of me saying, oh my god, I can't believe this girl is such a little baby back bitch. Yeah, now who's talking? Well, it was banned because it was scary. And people really weren't able to watch it. Maybe they could have found it on the internet, who knows, but it wasn't available to watch from Disney Channel until Disney+. So the film was released in 1999 as Disney's first real attempt at a horror movie. The classic Disney Channel Halloween movies definitely had elements of the supernatural and things that might be considered spooky, but they weren't necessarily categorized as horror. A lot of the supernatural or creepy elements of these movies were also counterbalanced with lighthearted themes and a lot of humor.
I raced a demon from the underworld, and they say big deal. I saw the same thing on Jerry Springer.
So they weren't very difficult watches. The film was directed by Kenneth Johnson, who also directed Xenon, Girl of the 21st Century, Oscar, and he was quoted as saying he wanted to make the film scary, but not too scary of a vibe. Now, let's take a second to talk about this. I imagine being an adult trying to write a horror film for children is actually an extremely difficult task because kids find the most insane shit scary, like that one scene in Willy Wonka, or caves, or cotton balls. So really, anything can ruin a kid's life. Attempting to make a horror for kids? That's a bold task. Now, this movie getting taken off the air is actually kind of controversial because while a lot of kids found this film way too scary, another group of kids and adults thought that those kids were just kind of little bitches. This includes even some members of my own community, my own family. So, as a unit of measurement, I have... Oh my god, it's green. I'm using a green screen. You're not going to be able to see this. Nightmare fuel. That's right. This is real stuff. Real stuff here, everyone. I'm not joking around. And then here we have our nightmare fuel unit of measurement. If it reaches this second line from the top here, then we know maybe this film was a little too scary. As we watch the film, I will be pouring nightmare fuel into this cup based on how much I think this is scary. Who is making these unit of measurements and the ultimate decider? Me. So, I love how I have these rules set up so that I can be correct later. No, I'm going to be fair, okay? I really want to know if I was just a little... If I was just a little coward, okay? So what the hell happened for this film to get banned from Disney Channel? Come on. We're going on a quest. You're going to come with me to help face my fear. Grab water. You're going to need water for this. You have to wear comfortable clothes because this is going to be a journey. The film follows our main character, Frances Bacon McCausland, which is a really terrible name. And she's just a no-nonsense, logical 14-year-old girl who is really smart and skipped a grade and is now in high school. And she's definitely the type to brand herself as an old soul to people who are not asking. She lives in a town called Middleburg, where there's some strange things happening. Starting off with these creepy-ass dolls who just move and stare at Frances as she's sleeping throughout the entire movie. I'm sorry, this is a terrible start. Everybody knows that porcelain dolls, especially ones that move, are creepy. So we're gonna have to crack open the nightmare fuel. We're gonna have to pour in a hefty amount for the dolls. I think we can all agree on that. This is especially important, and I'm actually gonna pour in a little more for this. I grew up with porcelain dolls hanging everywhere in my room, which I actually really liked until I saw this movie. So Mom, if you're wondering why you found those beautiful porcelain dolls in my closet, that's because of this movie. There's a lot of curious things happening in Middleburg. Eggs getting cracked on a teacher's car. The clock's moving 3 hours fast. Dogs on the roof. It's wacky, right? Yeah. Scary? No. I also really love Disney Channel movies from this era because they truly embody the, hi, my name is Frances, and my life is kind of crazy.
My name is Frances Bacon McCausland. I'm 14 years old.
Before people became more self-aware of the foreboding cringe and all of that, it's just the purest form of main character energy, and you just have to appreciate it. It's like seeing the Mona Lisa in Napoleon's bedroom before it got moved to the Louvre. Just like that. Almost exactly. It's art. Soon, all of these pranks and trickery start getting linked to Frances. Ooh. For example, this lawn art stunt, which exposes that her best friend Joe has a crush on her brother, Bert. And Joe told her this in confidence the day before.
You better not tell Bert anything about me thinking he's cute.
And then there's another scheme of a shit ton of Christmas lights on her house, and it ends up shutting down the whole city's power. All of these news people come and they're like, what the heck, this Frances girl is crazy. And then her parents left. They're like, okay, we gotta go because the news people keep ringing the doorbell and we can't handle this. And Frances is like, okay, I'm gonna stay here. And they're like, see ya. And when they leave, there's no news people there anymore. And then they come back and nothing happened to the plot. Among all of these things going on, this quirky gentleman keeps popping up. And apparently he's someone only Frances can see. And his name?
Houdini. Larry Houdini.
A few of you may know the significance of Houdini on my channel.
What's the Harry Houdini lore? We played tic-tac-toe on his forehead. Oh. We made Harry Houdini in The Sims, and we're now making him a menace to society.
Larry is by far my favorite character in this movie. He's just genuinely really funny. He got a few giggles out of me, to be honest.
But I do not have an imaginary friend.
Did I say I was your imaginary friend? I don't think so, Miss Frances.
And he's weirdly a really rational character and feels like a real person, even though he's actually the old imaginary friend of Frances's little brother, Darwin. Larry's problem is Darwin can no longer see Larry because he stopped believing in him because of Frances. Basically, Darwin had leukemia, and Frances told Darwin to start believing in the doctors and what's rational and what's real and not in imaginary things because that's for kids. So Larry also has beef with Frances because of this. Frances also didn't believe that Larry could only be seen by her, so instead of just asking one person, hey, can you see this guy next to me or am I insane? She decided to do this.
Excuse me. Does anybody know who this guy is? What is honestly, he says his name is Larry Houdini.
Why? Why was that your first idea, Frances? Everyone in Frances's life is increasingly growing more concerned for her because they think she's losing her mind a little bit. Larry informs Frances that the reason all of these things are happening to her is because of the Boogeyman. The Boogeyman is the reason for all of my grievances with this movie. The dolls were scary, but just take a look at this guy. First of all, his fingernails. I just get chills thinking about it, so I'm pouring some in for the fingernails. Now, the makeup of the Boogeyman is really good, very well done, and it's probably too good. And apparently Kenneth The director had plans to make the boogeyman more scary and more monster-like, and honestly, I would have preferred that. Like, the fact that he was this Victorian creep made it much worse for me. Like, I can handle a monster because I know that shit's not real. Even as like a 7-year-old, I'm like, that's not real. But a Victorian creep? That could actually exist. For example, if I had the choice to get in the ring with Jason or Pennywise, I'd box Pennywise all day, baby. So I'm going to pour in some nightmare fuel for the very good hair and makeup team. So the boogeyman is basically framing Frances for all of these hijinks, and she's fighting for her life.
I didn't do it!
Her parents really want to believe her because she's a good kid, especially her mom. And can we just take a second to talk about how iconic Frances's mom is? She's a cultural anthropologist. Now, honestly, up until this point in the film, everything's relatively tame. Yes, the dolls and the boogeyman are terrifying, but nothing really stuck with me. Until Frances and Larry start uncovering the lore of the boogeyman. And they discover the boogeyman can't get you if you sleep with the covers over your head. This entire concept is what broke me as a child. Let me just take a second here to tell you something that I've told very few people. I, for probably over a decade of my life, slept with the covers over my head because of this movie. Did my friends at sleepovers and family members ask me why I was sleeping with the covers over my head? Yes, they did. Did I tell them it was because I get cold when I sleep? Yeah. I think the reason this scared me so much was the idea that something would be lurking over me while I'm sleeping and I would have no idea. The doll staring at me. Some creep with long nails just grazing my bed. I thought, better safe than sorry. Now I'm going to expand on this point later, but a few more creepy things unfold. The most concerning is probably the fact that Larry progressively gets more terrifying. He's losing his temper. His eyes are changing colors. He's growing long nails. At the same time, Frances and Larry are trying to come up with ways to defeat the boogeyman, and they settle on this way in which they're going to age the boogeyman to be really old with this device that Larry made. That's pretty cool, actually. And they're making boogie goo to lure him out of Boogie World, which is under Frances's bed. Unfortunately, Darwin steps in the boogie goo, and then this happens. So Darwin gets pulled into the boogie world by the boogeyman, and Larry is turning into a boogeyman himself. Because apparently, when a kid stops believing in their imaginary friend too early, the imaginary friend turns into a boogeyman. Larry literally goes full exorcist for a second. Oh my god. I would put in some nightmare fuel for this scene. However, Larry's teeth, I think, were just so unusable that they had to dub over all of his lines. And it's so bad.
Fred, Donald's in the boogie world now. I'm gonna go get my centrifuge, alright?
It soaked up a lot of the terrifying scenes that Larry was in because I was just so focused on his mouth and the fact that he wasn't really saying any words, but words seemed to be coming out. That's magic right there. Movie magic, baby. Larry hops into the boogie world. He needs to save Darwin because Darwin needs to start believing in him before he goes into full boogeyman mode. Frances, of course, follows him and nearly dies immediately. Down in the boogie world, Frances and Larry are hunting for the boogeyman. And they finally run into him and they have their final boss fight. Unfortunately, in the middle of the fight, Larry just fully turns into a boogeyman, so it's 2v1. But it's fine because Frances convinces Darwin that Larry is real and he needs to believe in his imaginary friend, so Larry just converts back. Totally fine. Okay, so another scene that is burned into my memory was this. The real battle that Frances needed to win wasn't one of violence with the boogeyman, but one of love. Frances needed to start believing in her old imaginary friend Zoe and decide that she wasn't afraid of the boogeyman anymore.
The boogeyman's a girl?
Actually, it's Boogie Person.
This movie was kind of ahead of its time. After Frances remembered Zoe, she's like, oh my gosh, guys, let's all hang out together. And then Larry and Zoe were like, oh, we're leaving. Sorry for causing all this, but yeah, we're going to leave. You don't need us anymore. And then Larry gives Frances a little kiss. Kind of have a crush on my brother's imaginary friend. Could you imagine? That's a unique plot point right there. I absolutely love the fact that I didn't absorb a single ounce of the moral of the story, which is to not be afraid anymore, because when you're not afraid, you then have power. After this movie, all I thought was, oh, I'm terrified. That shows how much my brain was working at that time. Also, going back to my earlier point about the covers over the head, I want to paint you a picture. The idea that a creepy Victorian boogeyman can rip me out of my bed, bring me to the boogie world, and kill me because I may have forgotten them as an imaginary friend is a terrifying concept. Especially because I never recalled having an imaginary friend, so I thought I forgot about my imaginary friend, and now I'm fighting for my life. I know that this is kind of stupid, but I was also 7. Now, why I did this for so long, I can't explain that. That's going to have to go to the higher ups on psychology and neuroscience. I can't explain that personally. I don't know. So let's check out the nightmare fuel. Where's she at? Not quite there. Jury's out. I was a baby back bitch. I do think this film was too good for its own good. I thought that the plot was really unique. I don't think that it necessarily warranted getting banned. Now, of course, I now have a fully developed brain. Maybe that has something to do with it, but I can understand why executives and the director and all the adults involved were like, this will probably be fine. I honestly really relate to Miss Frances in the sense that she faced her fears in the end of the movie, and she came out on the other side a powerful girl boss. And I faced my fear watching this movie again for the first time, and I too feel like a powerful girl boss. Thank you for watching. I do have a special announcement. I now have YouTube memberships and you can join below. I have 3 tiers if you're interested. We're having a good time. You know, you can get access to the Discord. There's all sorts of things. You can get special posts. You could get special videos, all that sort of stuff. We're having a good time. And again, if you want to support me, no pressure, of course. If you do subscribe, however, the word on the street is the Boogeyman will come out at night, but he will tell you that you're kind of iconic, kind of a queen, kind of everything. So you'll just get affirmations from the Boogeyman at night. I don't know if you want that, but that's just what I was told. But it's actually probably really good for you. I don't know. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.